So this has been a big week for big oil, but not in a good way. On Wednesday, ExxonMobil shareholders chose to appoint two activist directors to its board. And then on the same day, a court in Hague ordered Royal Dutch Shell to cut its global carbon emissions by 45% by 2030. But on brighter news, French oil giant Total announced that it would be rebranding itself as Total Energies to reflect its shift towards renewable energy. So in today's video, we will be looking at what happened in each case, what are the effects for the oil industry, and what they mean for the future. On Wednesday, a majority of ExxonMobil shareholders voted to appoint two activist nominees to the oil and gas giant's 12-member board of directors. These directors were put forward by Engine No1, an activist investor hedge fund. Engine No1 owns a tiny $54 million stake in the $248 billion valued ExxonMobil, but it has been challenging the company's focus on fossil fuels since December. It argues that this focus has put the company at an existential risk and has gathered institutional investors who agree on this, such as Exxon's second largest shareholder, BlackRock Incorporated. BlackRock supported Engine No1's nominees because it believed that Exxon needed fresh perspectives and relevant transformative energy experience. This would help Exxon evaluate the risks and opportunities presented by the energy transition. Also on Wednesday, in a landmark case, a court in Hague ordered the oil giant Royal Dutch Shell to cut its global emissions by a whopping 45% by the year of 2030. The court said that the oil major had a duty of care and that its emissions had to be brought in line with the Paris Climate Agreement's reduction obligation. Judge Larissa Alwyn recognized that this would hurt Shell, but stated that the interest served with the reduction obligation outweighs the Shell Group's commercial interests. Shell has said that it will appeal, saying that there is no legal basis for the decision as only governments are responsible for meeting Paris Agreement targets. However, the court found that there was broad international consensus about the need for non-state action because states cannot tackle the climate issue on their own. But not all news is bad in the oiling world. On Friday, 90% of Total's shareholders voted in favor of renaming the world's fourth largest oil and gas producer from Total to Total Energies to reflect its clean energy transition goals. CEO Patrick Pouyanné stated that the new name would symbolize Total's new commitment to be a leader in a world with more energies and fewer emissions. For ExxonMobil, the shareholder resolution signals a new direction for the company. Exxon has long lagged behind other oil majors in terms of climate change. In fact, it predicted that the demand for fossil fuels would continue to grow for many years and doubled its spending to increase output. This is why the shareholder resolution was so important. It voted in two activist directors that go against fossil fuel usage and direct the company towards renewables instead. Exxon CEO Darren Woods, who was re-elected to the board, initially resisted Engine No1's campaign, arguing that Exxon already had low-carbon initiatives. But following the shareholder resolution, he acknowledged that more needs to be done. He said that today we heard shareholders communicate a desire to further efforts for climate action, and we're well positioned to do that. Exxon's revolutionary shareholder resolution also shows that investors are starting to take climate change more seriously. This is important for a couple of reasons. It shows big oil that its climate change activities are being watched. Investors will expect directors to make genuine efforts to cut emissions and transition to renewable energies. It also shows big oil that investors are now willing to take drastic actions. This is likely to spur directors even further to meet their desires. While commenting on the resolution, a senior director for oil and gas at Ceres said that nothing focuses a director's mind like the possibility that they might lose their job. Today, that risk became very real. Moving on to the effects of Shell's court order, the ruling will undoubtedly hurt the company's profits. The judge recognized that her ruling could have far-reaching consequences for the company and may even curb the potential growth of the Shell Group. Shell has stated that they will appeal the decision, which could take up to 2 years. However, Shell's executives are likely to be under pressure to take action in cutting emissions anyway in order to prepare for a worst-case scenario. Another important effect is that the ruling may encourage more climate lawsuits against big oil. Roger Cox, the lawyer for Friends of the Earth Netherlands, who brought the claim against Shell, said that this case was a turning point. He said that this case is unique because it is the first time a judge has ordered a large polluting corporation to comply with the Paris Climate Agreement. This ruling may also have major consequences for other big polluters. From Total's rebranding, we can draw the conclusion that shareholders want to see climate-positive action. This is reflected in the shareholders' 90% support of the rebranding, which is part of a genuine shift of Total's business towards renewable energy. Like in Exxon's resolution, this demonstrates that environmental concerns have become key investor considerations. So what does this all mean for the future? Well, first and foremost, it means that big oil should make a move towards clean energy. This is clearly something that investors want, and Mike Coffin, the senior analyst of think tank Carbon Tracker, explained the rationale. From an environmental perspective, we want these fossil fuels to stay in the ground. They're unburnable carbon. From an investment perspective, you don't want to sanction them because you're wasting your capital. You won't see the historic returns we've seen from oil and gas because of the slowdown on demand. It is also quite likely that we will see an increase in other ESG investment. ESG investing considers environmental, social, and governance factors when investing, meaning investors will be attracted to companies who are conscious of their social and environmental impact. The recent victories against big oil may lead to investors to ask more from their own companies, demanding things such as more workplace equality or ethical product sourcing. Something else we can see in the future is big oil being held to higher standards where climate change is concerned. For example, although Shell already has plans to cut global emissions by 20% by 2030, the Hague court did not think this was good enough. As some of the world's greatest polluters, governments and activists are likely to push the oil industry to make impactful changes, maybe sooner than they would have liked. As always, thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more great content.